Hello and welcome to tip number 36 from Aletha Solter's Raising Drug-Free Kids. I am T, your joyful parent guide and harmonizer. Today we start the chapter on children from the ages of 6 to 12. And this is huge. And before I even get into the tip, this is a very big marker. Because with the kids age 3 to 6, which we've been talking about them and with how to deal with their problems and all of that for a few weeks now, children from 3 to 6 are in this stage where things are they're very emotional, they're very intuitive, and we have a sense for this. Even if we don't have the words or, the educational background, we have a sense for this. They're new in the world. They don't get the real world yet, and they're not really meant to. Now, we have a 6 to 12-year-old, and their brain waves are different. They have come out of the stage where it's almost like hypnosis, right? They have different brain waves. They are suddenly seeing things in the real world. They are about logic and patterns and puzzles and sort of concrete things in the real world. They will say, "Oh, Mom, fairies aren't real. Unicorns don't really exist." Okay? And so we then sometimes, and this was the case for me, we get this idea that, okay, they have snapped into real life here, and now I can deal with them with real life. Whatever that means for you. For me, there were some, I'm sure as we go into this chapter, I will share some stories, specific stories about some of the bumps that I hit and some of the mistakes that I made. But yesterday, so we wrapped up that other chapter. It was about explaining the differences between poison and medicine and food to your 3 to 6-year-old. Today, 6 to 12 years old, and tip number 36 is listen non-judgmentally to your child's problems. It sounds really easy, and if we left it there, we could easily dismiss it and say, "Oh, of course, no problem." Here is the overall context for this. Whatever you as the parent can do, as that supportive presence can do to help your 6 to 12-year-old express her painful emotions, whether they are anger, maybe fear, frustration, sadness, any sort of unwanted, negative, painful emotions. Whatever you can do to help her express those, or him, is going to build their resilience, build their trust in themselves, in their own ability to encounter and meet whatever feelings are unwanted, whatever adversity in the world, whatever it is, without turning to whatever other means, like drugs, alcohol, whatever, down the line. All right, so that's where we're going with this, is whatever you can do to help them express these painful emotions, whether your kid is a talker, whether your kid expresses best through tears, okay? And sometimes, your kid might be a talker and you might not be. Your kid might be a crier and you really might not be. And not only might not you be, you might have some blockages to crying, whether those are, sort of the macho, hey, real men don't cry, or whether they're, oh my gosh, you can't cry because that, that shows weakness. And, if you weren't allowed to cry, if you weren't allowed to express when you were younger, there can be all kinds of things that come up for us. I want to acknowledge that because that's really important. It's about being a relational parent, seeing what your kid, how your kid is wired, and endeavoring to meet them where they need to be met, moving through some of these unhelpful conditioned patterns that you have, that we all have, okay, that might be blocking you from that relationship with your child. So things like shutting down the crying, things like blaming them, like, well, yeah, no wonder you got a C on that test, you know, you didn't study. That's not going to be helpful. It's not going to help them express the painful emotion. Things like, this was a big one for me, giving advice. Because here they are, they're presenting as a real human now, because they are into logic and what's real and all of it. So excellent. If I know something, here I am. I want to give it to you. I want to give you advice. So here's how to not have that happen in the future. It's not helpful for them expressing what is going on. That acts to shut it down. I'm sure that you know someone who loves to give advice. Maybe they love to give you advice, or maybe they love to give your partner or your sister advice, and you're always hearing about this, you know, Miss Know-It-All or Mr. Know-It-All. We definitely don't want that, because that is going to act to keep things bottled up within our child. So that is what Aletha, you know, that's a little more than Aletha or a little different than Aletha had to share, but those are the main things from this tip. Very, very important. And what I want to share here is, a lot of times we don't know, you know, where we are with things. Like, we might not, you know, that's why we go for a checkup, right? That's why we go for a physical every year. Get our blood pressure and maybe some blood work and our heart rate and, you know, say ah and all of that, to get a baseline, to check in and compare to last year. So I've created your parenting pulse. And it's specifically, it's geared toward parents of children age 10 and up. But, you know, if you have an 8-year-old or even a 7-year-old, you know, you can take it and you can get a lot of use out of it. So it's free. I'm going to post the link beneath this video. Is for you to take your parenting pulse. And if you forget, you can just go to yourparentingpulse.com. That's where it is. So I look forward, I'm so excited to be diving into this 6 to 12-year-old chapter with you, and I look forward to sharing the next tip tomorrow. Bye for now.